Welcome to today's morning micro meditation, dear friend. Today's topic is adversity. Adversity, challenges, obstacles in your life. Here we are, it's a fresh day, and I wonder if perhaps you're aware of some blocks that may exist in your life between where you are right now and where you'd like to be. Very common that we want more money than we have, but there's some obstacle in the way of ourselves and that increased income. Very common that we want to feel happier in our lives, but there's some obstacle in the way between where we're at now and how we'd like to feel. Very common that we have a vision of how we'd like our relationships to be, whether personal or professional, but we feel that there's some block, some obstacle in the way between where we are now and where we'd like to be. So as you look out across the day that you have planned for yourself, just check in briefly with what might represent an obstacle for you, a challenge, a blockage, adversity. And what we're going to talk about here in our micro meditation, what we're going to explore together, is the possibility that that adversity might be welcomed, that there may actually be a silver lining to those clouds. So, get yourself comfortable, go somewhere quiet where you won't be disturbed, close your eyes with me, and take at least 3 long, slow, deep breaths. And if you can, maybe you can hear me through the microphone, releasing that out breath slowly. If you can find a comfortable way to do this, this sends a signal to our physiology that we are safe. If you consider our ancestors living in the jungle, dealing with predators, or indeed hunting, when the stakes were high for survival, those ancestors of ours would have been breathing short and sharp and shallow. And often the out-breath would be faster than the in-breath. So here in meditation and anywhere else throughout your day that you feel you need to hit the reset button, you can instead take a long, slow, deep breath with, as a bonus, the out-breath being longer than the in-breath. Then you send that signal to your system. I'm safe. I'm well. Everything's okay. It may feel like there's predators around. Janet from HR can be pretty mean. But she's not a tiger. So continuing those long, slow, deep breaths for as long as you please. Or if you prefer, settling into a more regular rhythm of breathing. And now let's once again call to mind whatever looks like the biggest obstacle in your path today. As a human being, you almost certainly have some goals. Even if those goals look like you just want to get home as soon as possible and play video games. Still a goal. Maybe we'll talk about how to develop more wholesome goals in the future. But this is not to say that video games are bad by themselves. I myself indulge from time to time. If it's your only goal, you can do better. but we'll talk about that in another video. Today, whatever your goal is, don't be shy about it. Be honest with yourself. If it is to play video games, if it's to come home and jack off, if it's to get drunk, that's your goal. What we're interested in today is whatever obstacle might be in your way. So we're not so interested in the goal as the obstacle, the adversity, whatever shows up as the enemy in your life today. Maybe it's a boss with unreasonable demands. Maybe it's a lack of funds. Maybe it's a lack of time. Maybe you have children who need your attention. Maybe you have a toxic, intimate relationship in your life. Maybe a needy parent. Whatever it is, some health issue like I've been experiencing recently, whatever the obstacle is, bring it to mind and consider that unless you simply cower and hide, you're going to find a solution to this obstacle. If you briefly consider all of the other obstacles that you've faced in your life, and then consider, where are they now? I can almost guarantee that there was some obstacle in your life prior to now that seemed impossible to get over. Some adversity that seemed like it was going to crush you. But it didn't. If you're here watching this video, you survived. You got over it. Or through it, or under it, or around it, or away from it. You survived that adversity. And this is what humans do. We're resourceful. We're intelligent. We are problem solvers by nature. Every one of your ancestors solved a great many problems throughout their lifetimes. And you have too. So what makes you think that this obstacle that you're going to face today is any different? But let's also consider how those obstacles in your past, how that adversity forced you to grow. Because didn't it? Didn't it force you to grow? To grow either physically, to overcome some health issue, to grow mentally in problem solving, decision making, to grow in emotional maturity in dealing with difficult relationships, in dealing with your relationship to yourself. Perhaps you've dealt with some big professional challenge where you had to really level up in your field, in your chosen line of work. Perhaps you had financial struggles, which meant you had to learn to manage that stress. Unless you've been living in a cave, you've dealt with adversity before, and you've grown through it. Ram Dass said, "Suffering is grace." And what he meant was precisely what we've been talking about in today's micro meditation. You grow through your adversity. You learn through your adversity. And often, these are the most powerful lessons, aren't they? This is where the most powerful growth is found. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "No mud, no lotus. No suffering, no awakening. No dissatisfaction, no enlightenment." We see, don't we, examples of people who look as if they have no mud, who look as if they have no suffering. Kids who are born into ultra-rich families, for example, but what do we see? They typically end up on drugs or ruining their lives in some other way. This is not to say there aren't well-adjusted kids in rich families, but actually I've never heard of one. Maybe that's because they're just quietly enjoying their lives, who knows, but we see, don't we, that in a life of no adversity, people tend to cause themselves problems. Without adversity, we're almost not human. It's only just possible on the timeline of human history that one could experience a life, or at least a period of life, with no adversity. Life and adversity go together. Again, every one of our ancestors dealt with great adversity, many, many obstacles, typically many more than we face today, although, of course, some of us are unfortunate. Some of us live very hard lives. If that happens to be you, if you really feel that there's some obstacle that you can't overcome, drop me a comment. Let me see if I can help. But the takeaway from today's micro meditation is to not just welcome your adversity, but even to give it thanks. Can you be grateful for the obstacles that you will face today, greeting them as opportunities to learn and grow? I'd love that for you, friend. And I'd love to hear about your obstacle and how you welcomed it and what it taught you in the comments as well. So let's all join the party, let's all join the conversation and talk about our adversities. I'll look forward to reading that. And I'll see you next time.